Good afternoon. It's the 14th day of October, year 2023. It's a wonderful day to be on the program again. This is Agreenvolution on Light Radio. To be a part of the program, you can join us live on Facebook at Light Radio. You can also view us live on YouTube at Lights Radio, and also via the Radio Garden app on your Google Play Store. Just install the app, then search for Light Radio. Then you'll be connected to the studio. On today's program, we shall be looking at a different dimension of agriculture. However, it has a link with human life. But before we go to the depth of the program, we shall be looking at the latest news that came to the desk of Agreenvolution concerning the present problem that Nigerians are having as regards agriculture, which is about food security. Today's program shall be entertaining, as we shall be looking at different dimensions on how our actions with respect to what we do to our animals could actually affect our livelihood, and as a matter of fact could depict what could happen in about 17 years with this time, or 27 years. It's about 27 years with this time, to be specific. I am AIYEDUN LATEEF, bringing up to your desk Agreenvolution this Saturday, 14th October 2023. On food security, the federal government set to commence aggressive dry season farming in November. Following the declaration of a national state of emergency on food security by the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security has disclosed plans to commence aggressive promotion and preparation for dry season farming from October 2023. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, who stated this in Abuja during a press conference to review the plans on the way forward for Nigerian agriculture to deliver on the renewed hope agenda of President Tinubu, also assured that with the commencement of harvest season, food prices will begin to drop. Kyari stated that as part of the dry season farming system, the certification for available planting materials for some food crop is currently ongoing. He added that as part of the National Agriculture Growth Scheme and Agro Pockets project funded by the African Development Bank, the target is to produce 70,000 hectares across the wheat production zone of the country, with expected yield of 875,000 metric tons of the food for the food reserve. In addition to that, the minister said that arrangements were also at advanced stage for dry season farming of rice, maize, and other horticultural crops. He also disclosed plans to hold National Agriculture and Food Security Summit in November, with the aim of bringing all stakeholders together for the development of National Action Plan for Food Security with an implementation and sustainable strategy. Senator Kyari further revealed that during the National Agriculture and Food Security Council, to be held in November, they will review the mechanism for processes for delivering fertilizers and agro-pesticide input to farmers in transparent and accountable regime. On the short term, priority actions to be taken by the ministry between 2023 and 2024, he said they intend to analyze and map agricultural and food security stakeholders, strengthen, reposition agriculture and food security institutions for the task ahead, adding that they also intend to establish 2 new national gene bank facilities for crop and animal so as to conserve the fast eroding genetic resource for food security. Let's go for this short break. When we return, we're going to the details of what we have for you today.
filẹ̀ sóhun tólùkọ́ kọ́ wọn. Olùkọ́ ní kó kàwé wọn sì máa ṣeré ká. Wọ́n á jẹun wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ roboto. Iṣẹ́ ìyẹn kì í ṣe tiwọn. Eré ṣáni tiwọn. Dòdò àti ráìsì kò gbọ́dọ̀ kọjá. Wọ́n á jẹun wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ roboto.
Welcome back from that short break. If you are just joining on, this is Agreenvolution on Lights Radio. It's a program designed to arouse your agricultural consciousness and give you insights on issues relating to agriculture and humans. Today on the program, we are looking at a new dimension with respect to livestock management, and also how does this affect humans. If you've been following the program for a time now, you understand that the program is not only centered on agriculture. However, we also bring on board topics that are relating to how agriculture affects human, such as human health, with respect to agriculture and what we eat. We also talk about the economic aspects and how we can improve ourselves by creating jobs through agriculture. So it is not a new stuff when we talk about agriculture, because we have other things that are embedded in agriculture. From our preamble for today's program, you shall see one of the potentials on how agriculture can affect everybody in its facet. Please stay tuned while we go for this short break.
Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ ilé wa, ẹni kò ṣiṣẹ́ á máa jalè.
Welcome back. With the current trend in our economy and agricultural sector, lots of risks are abound. The risk of eroded investment, poor yield and production, the risk of poor revenue, compromise in quality of output and produce, unwholesome and unhealthy products, all the above stated affect human health and longevity, because we are what we eat. Today we shall be looking at drug abuse in livestock management. I know if I join the program, you may be like, drug abuse in livestock management, how does that relate? Or does drug abuse occur in livestock? Yes, it does. Actually, this topic was inspired by some things that we saw on social media recently with respect to some farmers asking questions. You can imagine a farmer buying a particular brand of drug and asking, how do I use this drug? The farmer snapped the actual drug and posted it on a particular Facebook page asking how he should use the drug. Then I ask a question. What is the essence of the label, the prints on the drug? If as a farmer, you buy a drug and you cannot read the label, it is a shame. Because personally, I believe if you are buying anything, there are things that you need to do on your own. Read the label, check if what you are buying is intact. It is wrong when you now buy a particular drug and you now begin to ask, how do you use it? Now, if you are buying a drug and you don't know how to use it, that is one of the first elements or first identification of drug abuse. Now, what is drug abuse itself? Drug abuse is very important because it's an important phenomenon that we need to talk about as individuals, because it affects every facet of life. To many, drug abuse is about just using drug, either overdosing, but it's beyond that. To be a part of the program, do join us on Facebook at Lights Radio, on YouTube at Lights Radio. Follow us on all social media platforms, including our TikTok handle. And you can also follow Agreenvolution on Facebook and Agreenvolutionia on TikTok. What are drugs? Let's start from the known to the unknown. Drugs are chemicals that are carefully formulated to treat certain ailments. Drugs are not limited to only the human drugs that we buy, because we also have the class of drug that is used in agriculture, which are called the veterinary pharmaceuticals. What are veterinary pharmaceuticals? These are chemicals that are formulated carefully to meet the mitigation or the control or the targeted at specific either bacteria, protozoa, helminthitis, or any kind of invader that may cause a potential harm to the system of the animal. We have different classes of pharmaceuticals. The most common one is the multivitamins. Multivitamins generally does not really pose much effect. However, multivitamin vary from brand. It depends on the brand you are buying. We have the liquid one, we have the water soluble powder. We have the anticoccidia. We have the anti-helminthitis. We have the antifungal, the oral disinfectant like iodine solutions. We have supplements like some drugs that are compounded with amino acid and minerals. And we also have antibiotics. For the benefit of this program today, we shall be looking at a particular class of veterinary pharmaceuticals that pose lots of threats to humans. This particular class of veterinary pharmaceuticals pose lots of threats because we as individuals, we just believe, let me go to the veterinary pharmacy, let me buy this kind of drug. Sometimes some farmers buy drug out of desire, which is very wrong. You cannot say because your friend is buying a particular drug that you too must buy that drug. Just like we don't do such in human. For the benefit of this program, we shall be focusing on antibiotics, because antibiotics happens to be one of the most abused drug of veterinary pharmaceuticals when it comes to animals. By the year 2050, the number of deaths in human is predicted by researchers to rise higher than cancer and diabetes combined. That statement is credited to researchers that are certified. I repeat, by the year 2050, the number of deaths in humans is predicted by researchers to rise higher than cancer and diabetes combined. Now, what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are veterinary pharmaceuticals that are formulated carefully, targeted at certain bacteria. The bacteria they attack is a function of which chemical that were used together, that were formulated together, in which concentration it is in its composition. So antibiotics generally is different from multivitamins. Multivitamin is to provide vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, K, vitamin C, vitamin B, and other vitamins you may think of. And also, most of what we don't understand, most of us will say, I want multivitamins. It is hard in Nigerian market for you to get a drug that is purely multivitamin. Most of what you get is multivitamins and some minerals. Now, what are the classes of antibiotics? We have the broad spectrum antibiotics, we have the specifics, we have the therapeutic or prophylactic, and the routine. The broad spectrum are those that you administer and they may treat 2, 3, 4 different ailments, or may be responsible to kill more than 1, 2 different bacteria. The specifics, these have targets. These antibiotics have targeted bacteria that they are after. While the therapeutic ones are for treatment, while that of the prophylactic are for prevention. The routine is what you use often. Now, if you look at that classification, you may not agree with the classification, but however, if I explain, you get to agree with the classification. Why? Because some therapeutic are broad spectrum. Some therapeutic are specific. Why do we have them in differences? Because the concentration of a particular antibiotics determines if it's for therapeutic or for prophylaxis. Prophylaxis, I mean prevention. You can't have your animal down to a particular ailment and you have done sensitivity test and you were told to administer oxytetracycline and you are now buying 5% concentration. It may not work. So that is why you have had therapeutic and prophylactic. So the concentration of the antibiotics you are buying determines, because the drug you give to your animal is a function of the sensitivity test that you must have been carried out. Now, when we talk about routine antibiotics, these are antibiotics that are used from time to time, either probably monthly basis, depending on the kind of pets or animal that you are raising. Now, when we now talk about types of antibiotics, we have tetracyclines, which may be either oxytetracycline or cotetracycline. We have the fluoroquinolones, which may be enrofloxacin or ofloxacin. We have penicillin. An example is amoxicillin. We have aminoglycoside. An example is neomycin and gentamicin. We have macrolides, which may be erythromycin and tylosin. And we have sulfonamides, which may be either sulfaquinoxaline or sulfadimidine. Now, most of us, we've known all these antibiotics. And one of the reasons why we are bringing this topic is because I've seen lots of farmers asking for drugs that contain enrofloxacin and amoxicillin and asking me, please, can we mix this with a drug that contains gentamicin and doxycycline? As far as I'm concerned, I would just look at such farmers and be like, what exactly are you treating? If you don't know what you are treating, then you don't know what you are doing. Because if you are beginning to use a wrong drug for your animal, or you don't know what you are treating, that is another sign of drug abuse. You can't just be buying antibiotics for buying antibiotics. All these antibiotics, they have their own specific functions. But if you are trying to get a broad spectrum antibiotics, you may get them. But be sure that you have consulted with your consultant or a vet before you go ahead to do that. More so, we have different forms of antibiotics. We have the oral antibiotics, we have the injectable antibiotics, we have the topical and the aerosol. The oral antibiotics is mainly administered orally via the mouth, while the injectable is administered through via injection, and the topical could be placed on the skin. An example is penicillin ointment. Penicillin ointment is rubbed directly on wound, while aerosol could be spray. An example is oxytet spray, that is mostly used by those that breed canine, that is those that breed dogs. However, we also have antibiotics of a different appearance. We have in water-soluble powder, the aqueous concentration, and sometimes the immiscible liquid. More so, the route of administration also is very important, because you may administer antibiotics via drinking water, via injection. Via the injection could be subcutaneous, intramuscular, or intravenous. All these are information that are carried on the labels of the drug. Because when you buy any drug, they are written on the label. Now, what are the things to note on an antibiotics label? Number one, you need to know the composition. Because the most important thing you need to do, if you are complaining of your animal, either a cattle, sheep, goat, or anything, and you want help from a consultant, you need to know the composition of the drug you have used in the past, which is why when you go to medical doctors in hospitals and you complain about a health defect or health condition, they ask you, what are the drugs you have used before? They need to know your medical history. They need to know the drugs you've administered to your animals. This will now guide them to know, okay, you have used this drug. If the drug you have used accidentally is supposed to have treated that ailment and the ailment is still there, we suspect something we call antibiotic resistance. However, you need to look at the indications. All these things are carefully written on the label. Indications are the kind of bacteria that the drug is targeted at. Remember, we are talking about antibiotics. Kind of bacteria the drug is targeted at. The withdrawal periods also stated, which is very important. The storage, how do you store it, is very, very important. All these are written on the label. The shelf life. Now, there's a gimmick here. If you look at the shelf life on a particular drug, and the shelf life says 4 years, and you now go ahead to check the expiry date, If the gap between the production date and the expiry date is not 4 years, then you know there's something wrong with the drug. I repeat, if you look at the shelf life of the drug and it's written 4 years, and you now calculate the difference between the manufacture date and expiry date, if it's not up to 4 years, or if it's more than 4 years, then there is a problem. And what do you need to do? Immediately you report. To whom? To NAFDAC. There's a way to go about that. We spoke about that last week. Then also dosage and administration. This is one of the most important things you need to do as a farmer. When you buy your drugs, read through the label, check for the dosage, check for the route of how do you administer it. There are some drugs that you may administer via pulse dosing. Some is directly through the water. You know the number of the liters of water your birds take. Then you mix, you measure, which is why as a farmer you need a kitchen scale. Other things you need to check out for on the label is the manufacturer name and detailed address, the dates and numbers like the batch number, the NAFDAC number, the production date as well as the expiry date. All this must be present on a label. Why did we bring up all this? I came across a particular drug that was produced somewhere in Nigeria, and this drug does not have a detailed address. Fine, it's carried a NAFDAC number, but on verification, the NAFDAC number does not exist because we were unable to pick when we try to check for the drug. And why did we check? The composition of the drug was very fishy. On the label, it was written Savit. But when we now check details, it was written on the look at the name, Savit. Vit means vitamin. Now, the details of the drug reads cassava and salt. Now, what is the correlation between cassava and salt as ingredients? Comparing it with, and moreover, veterinary pharmaceuticals, we don't call it, they call it composition. On the label, it is written ingredients. So all these are indices for you to know that what you are administering to your animal could be inferior. If you are just joining the program, this is Agreenvolution on Lights Radio. You can join us via our Facebook at Lights Radio, on YouTube at Lights Radio, and you can follow us on all social media platforms at Lights Radio. Now, what is antibiotic abuse? Antibiotic abuse is when you, as a farmer or as an individual, you are not administering the drug following the instruction on the label. Either you are over administering or you are under administering. For example, if a drug says 100 grams to 150 liters and you are administering because mofeko share dada, you are now administering 100 grams to 75 liters. That is drug abuse. Or because you feel you don't have money, they said 100 grams to 150 liters. You are now administering 100 grams to 300 liters. That is drug abuse. Those that did the composition for the drug have carefully done all clinical checks and trials and discovered that 100 grams to 150 liters is what will give you results. You are now, because of the economy of your pockets, deciding to dilute the composition and you expect the drug to work. And secondly, if you are increasing the composition by reducing the quantity of water that is specified on the label, you have successfully increased the antibiotic load on the system of the animals, by which you would have led the animal to be resistant at the end of the day because you are overdosing the animal. Let's go for this short break. When we return, we continue from where we stop. This is Agreenvolution. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. This is still Agreenvolution on Light Radio, and we've been talking about drug abuse in livestock management. Considering the nature of the topic, we know when we are done raising our animals, we sell them for consumption. And by virtue of drug abuse, most of us are only used to drug abuse in humans. But that of animal has a ripple effect on humans, which is one of the things we refer to as animal-human resistance to antibiotics. This is a very delicate case that is related to the first inference we drew that by 2050, number of deaths as a result of resistance, antibiotic resistance, will increase to overshadow the number of deaths as a result of cancer and diabetes put together. Antibiotic resistance is not something we should take with levity hand, because whether you like it or not, it is possible that one of your family may end up consuming those animals that you have overloaded with antibiotics. There are lots of gimmicks that farmers play. I know sometimes I was trying to talk about the gimmicks that managers play. And also farmers too, they play some gimmicks with their birds, most especially those that are broiler farmers. They say because their birds are dying, then they begin to load them with heavy antibiotics so that they can meet up and sell them off. The withdrawal periods are not observed. And at the end of the day, you buy this kind of chicken or this kind of goat or this kind of cow, and you begin to notice, peradventure, if the cow was injected and the portion through which it was injected is that same portion you were served in your meal, you will discover that there will be a different taste if you compare. And then apart from that, those of us that are into meat science, the antibiotic resistance is a very significant problem. When I say significant, I mean it's a very big problem, that it has an impact on human health. Because antibiotic resistance means that the drug you'll be administering to your animals will not be able to tackle this bacteria anymore. It's just like a child that knows that anytime the father comes home, knock. You always knock. When you knock the door, probably you knock the door like 4 times, and the child does not come to open the door. When he eventually opens, the first time the child will be shocked. The second time will be shocked. But it will get to a time the child will always know such child, immediately the child is opening the door, it tries to dodge because it knows that the next thing is a slap. That child is being resistant to that slap. Such thing also happens in bacteria. When they know, or perhaps you have overloaded their system with antibiotics, and these antibiotics send signals. When they are ingested, they send signals to the brain that produces hormone that will now secrete some chemicals that will now fight this bacteria. So automatically, you have left the bacteria to be accustomed with the antibiotics that you have been administering over time. They begin to now form resistance. It's just like human beings too. When you are in an area, when you are just new in that area, everything will be strange. You won't be comfortable. By the time you spend a few days, weeks, years in that area, nothing happens in that area that catch you unaware because you already understand the terrain of that area. These are one of the reasons why we don't advise farmers or individuals to administer antibiotics indiscriminately. Antibiotic residue, more often time, are locked within the muzzle of this animal, most especially if they are injected. Which is why sometimes, depending on the nature of the antibiotics, the cells of the area with which the animals are injected most often are deadened as a result of the action of these antibiotics. Now, looking at what human being does again with respect to antibiotics, I know some people administer human antibiotics to animals, most especially poultry farmers. I've had it not once, not twice, not thrice. Or farmer coming to the way I consult that, please, do you have Doxycap? I will not be like, Doxycap for what? He said he wants to use it for my chicken. Why would you be administering drug meant for humans for animals? They'll be like, ma ṣiṣẹ́ now. I'm not saying it won't work. But did you know the rationale behind the formulation of human drugs? Do you know the rationale behind formulation of animal drugs? Let me give you a simple analysis to be able to understand why you should not administer human antibiotics to birds. For example, let's take paracetamol for example. Paracetamol for everybody as an adult, it is 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 2 in the night. And it contains 500 milligrams of acetaminophen each. That means you are taking 1,000 milligrams in the morning, 1,000 in the afternoon, and 1,000. That's 3,000 in the whole day. You now feel your beds are stressed, and let's say probably you have like 100 beds of about 3 weeks. Let's say they're about 3 weeks or going to about 4 weeks. Let's say 3 weeks, for example, that they are weighing on the average of 1 kg. Let's just assume they are 1 kg. You now want to consume their water because the birds were stressed. You now take 1 full sachet of paracetamol that has 12 tablets. 5 times 12, that is 60. That means you have given them 6,000. Is it 6,000? Yes. That is 6,000 acetaminophen. 6,000 milligrams. That's what you have given about 100 beds. Now, when you now look at those 100 beds of average of 1 kg, 1 times 100, that is 100 kilogram. That means 100 kilogram beds have been given 6,000. It's even more than 6,000. Let's try to do the maths. Let's go on this short when we come, we'll give you the mathematics of that. Welcome back. We're actually right. It's 6,000. I'm an animal scientist. However, I'm not really good at sharp maths like that. So now imagine if one individual that is weighing about 80 kilograms is to take 3,000 in one day. And that 3,000 is divided into 1,000 in the morning, 1,000 in the afternoon, 1,000 at night. And you as a farmer, you are giving the aggregate of all your birds weighing 100 kg, 6,000 at once. Imagine. Don't you think you are overloading their system? And which organ are you overloading? You are overloading their liver. This, among others, accounts for why humans that are fond of abusing drugs often have liver problem. And by extension, kidney problem. If you look at about 20 years ago, cases of kidney problem, liver problem are not rampant like they are today. The case of drug abuse, administering excessive antibiotic drugs to animals or administering human drugs to animals to have their own contribution in this. Because the antibiotic resistance, it is not only the fact that it will be laid in the tissue alone. The system will absorb what it can absorb. Now, let's give you another example of how this is not good to for the consumers. You as a farmer, you have overloaded your system, the system of your animal with gentamicin. You now sell this bird to someone. The person processed the bird, consumed it. And the person was sick before the person bought your chicken. When the person got to the lab, they did a test and the person needed gentamicin injection to solve or to make the person healthy. You have successfully given the person a chicken that has gentamicin. You'll be thinking in your own thoughts like a layman that shebi ogun yeti wa nínú chicken ye krete ni ye ò lè jẹ́ kó kare ya. That is not how all this drug works. You would have successfully translate something we call bioaccumulation and bioaggregation of chemicals from the chicken you have given that man, from the chicken onto the man's system. And also, excessive punching in a particular location, bí Yorùbá ṣe máa ń sọ, tá bá ń lu ni lójú kan, alágbẹ̀dẹ tó ń lójú kan òun ló mọ ohun tó ń wá. Nǹkan tó ń wá yẹ ó wà positive for alágbẹ̀dẹ, but for you that you have picked an hammer trying to hit a wall repeatedly in one spot, you will continue to weaken that wall. This is how you weak the immune system of the consumers of chicken or animals that you must have given human drugs or commit the crime of drug abuse, because drug abuse is a crime. Now, what you are doing, is it right or wrong? You have to judge yourself. If administering human drugs to an animal, if it's right or wrong, that is a rhetorical question that you need to answer on your own. Now, what are the potential impacts of administering human antibiotics to poultry? One of the most common one is bioaccumulation. That is, the chemical will bioaccumulate in the tissue of that animal over time, and biomagnification. These two occurs along the food chain and across the food web. For those of us that did biology in O-level or in secondary school, we know what food chain and food web is. Food chain is, for example, you plant grass, the goat will eat grass, human will feed on the goat. That's along the food chain. Now, food web, you have an animal. 3, 4, 5 different kind of animal could feast on that animal. For example, you have grass, the goat will eat grass, hawk could feed on the goat, another animal could feed on the goat. The moment you have 2 or more animals in the upper part of the food chain that have potential of feeding on that animal, that is becoming a web because they are interwoven. So bioaccumulation of chemicals could occur, and biomigration also could occur. The impact of all this indiscriminate antibiotic on animals is, number one, stunted growth. Stunted growth will arise because you are overloading the system of this animal, and antibiotics generally have a way of reducing the beneficial microbes in the system that will now in turn affect the rate at which nutrients are assimilated, because these microbes, not all of them are harmful to the system of the animal. Some of them help in breaking down nutrients, and as a result, since you have killed most of them, those that are useful to help the animal to digest, to break down food to simpler particles, will also be dead. And if there's no nutrients for the animal to pick for growth, then there will be stunted growth. Also, it leads to antibiotic resistance. It also leads to impaired immunity, impaired liver function, especially in large animals and small animals. Also, it also happens also in broilers. Also, reoccurrence of diseases, because since the animal is resistant to treatment, the disease will keep reoccurring. We also have masking of diseases. When I say masking, just like we use mask, you will not know that this particular disease is what is presenting itself. At the end of the day, you keep treating A instead of treating B. However, reduction in rate of weight gain also occurs because there is stunted growth. Increase in cost of production, you end up spending more money trying to improve the health of the animal. And also in layer production, there's reduction in egg production in terms of size and quantity. Now, what are the health implications of this? Its potential health implication is antibiotic resistance, like I said earlier, immunosuppression, liver toxicity. It may also lead to kidney disorder. Genetic mutation in certain cases may occur, developmental anomaly, and death in severe cases. All these are cases revolving around administration of drugs without prejudice to the label, without observing the label. Now, what are the things you can do as an individual to improve the life of your animal? Number one, you may use all these organics. Examples are thyme, red pepper, ginger, garlic, moringa oleifera, cinnamon. You may use them to improve, because these are the way they work. They improve they act as antioxidants and also increase velocity of the intestine. In the intestine, there's an organ that is called the villi. The villi in the intestine is responsible for absorbing nutrients in the digested feed. And when the villi height is increased, the surface area for digestion is also increased. Then it brings about growth performance and also increases productivity. And all this organic stuff that I've read out will improve antimicrobial activity and increase immune system, the immune modulatory activity of the animal. As a matter of fact, there are solutions on how you can avoid. Now, what are the solutions? Administer antibiotics only when it is prescribed. You don't buy antibiotics. I know farmers brag a lot, like it is not the number of drugs you buy for your animals that is important. Are you buying the right drugs? Administering antibiotics, or generally administration of drugs, only when it is prescribed. Certainty in antibiotics administration is also significant. Follow the dosage religiously. Observe withdrawal period as stipulated. I repeat, follow the dosage religiously and observe the withdrawal period as stipulated. Farmers, I know we like to gamble a lot. In conclusion, let me give you an analogy of something I read on Facebook recently, of a farmer asking questions about a particular brand of bleach. Then the farmer said, "Can I administer bleach to my animals?" Some said, "Yes, it's very good. Just give them small. It will kill some bacteria in them and tackle Gumboro disease." I was not like, why? What is the correlation between administration of bleach? Is it even edible in the first instance? Who approved bleach as a use to cure diseases in livestock management, in livestock? But considering the fact that Nigerians, especially on social media, see social media as a faceless avenue to dissipate all sorts of false information, I was not amused. I had to drop a small comment on do only what is advised by a professional. And secondly, someone also asked a question in one of our forums that what is the impact of Lasota vaccine and Gumboro vaccine? The response I got wowed me. Somebody responded. Let me read the response directly, the way it is written. Let's go for this break. When we come back, I'll read the response. I want to read it directly from where it is. Please stay tuned.
Iṣẹ́ ilé wa, ẹni kò ṣiṣẹ́ á máa jalè. Ìwé kíkọ́.
Welcome back. The person said, "Please, sir." Okay, this is not the actual message, but please hold on. But the message is just talking about, the person is talking about Lasota and Gumboro. And the person said, Lasota and Gumboro are antibiotics that are sometimes used to treat disease disorder. Someone now responded him that, "Please, sir, Lasota and Gumboro are vaccines, not antibiotics. Take note. Thanks." The person still further said, Lasota and Gumboro are not vaccines, but rather antibiotics. He further added that Lasota is an antibiotic used to treat avian influenza, while Gomboro is an antibiotic used to treat salmonella. Vaccines are different from antibiotics in that they work by stimulating the body's immune system to fight against specific diseases, while antibiotics works only by directly killing or inhibiting growth of bacteria. Do you understand the difference? It's even ascertaining. So when I saw his further explanation, I asked a question, sir, kindly rephrase what you have written. Then he even reposted it again. This shows to a large extent how Nigerian farmers can be so dogmatic with respect to what they write on social media. I wonder in what quarter of knowledge, in what area or aspect of knowledge the farmer has gotten that information from, that Lasota and Gomboro are antibiotics, that they are not vaccines. I know if you listen to that, you'll be smiling like, what kind of person is that? It is here. I will try as well to share this picture on our social media handle so you can see for yourself. This is one of the reasons why we advise farmers or intending farmers to seek knowledge first, get a consultant that knows the nitty-gritty of what you want to invest your money into. You cannot come into agriculture with this current hike in feed prices, buy broiler at the rate of about 900 naira per day or chick, buy feed at about 15,000 naira per bag, buy drugs at the high price, and then begin to now play eyoje with your investment. If you try that, uncle, you'll be playing eyoje with your blood pressure, and at the end of the day, you spend more money in paying for the medical doctors. Special thanks to the studio crew, from your studio manager to the engineers and the program producer. It's been the production of Light Radio. I also appreciate the management of Light Radio for giving us this time to enlighten you more on agriculture. I am AIYEDUN LATEEF, saying bye for now and see you next time.